the United States, but let's put it on an MLS broad spectrum. Let's say United States and Canada, because the Canadian teams that are part of the MLS are also invested in this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's shown. Toronto and Montreal are...
And Vancouver. Vancouver's actually, they have a huge... There's been a wave in Portland and Seattle, which is in the news, so I don't need to talk about it. Yeah. That's also extended to Vancouver.
Sure.
It's not reported here because it's not America.
Right.
Shout out to the Canadians.
So, there's steps in place that I talked about this meeting going on. And one of the things that the ISC is asking for is to bring in human rights organizations to work with MLS to rewrite and actually make a full section in the Code of Conduct on political human rights and try to figure all this crap out. So
I think until like MLS finds a way to monetize it. So like when you look at Pride, right? That was a faux pas years ago. That would not be in existence, and they found a way to monetize on it.
Yeah, so how do you... Not that we want to exploit human rights issues,
No.
but
I really don't.
How would that look? I mean, I understand completely, but I mean, how? It's insane that we have to have that conversation.
And,
it is,
and they've started a little bit. They have their Soccer for All campaign, which right now applies to Pride Month, basically.
Right.
I mean, that program, it's a good program. It's what that program, how it's run and what it stands for is excellent. Why not just take that and run it all year long?
Yeah. Yeah.
And include the groups that are targeted. Include the groups that are, marginalized or, that need a voice, basically.
Okay, Dave, you've been quiet, and you tried to say something.
No, I'm just saying. I don't think it's a stretch. I think it's just a hard line to cross with. MLS trying to keep politics out of soccer. I think that's a very difficult thing to do,
right?
Especially from a supporter standpoint. And somebody brought up like average Joe Smo in the stands may not think it's a problem, but they don't see it the same way as these supporter groups do. But it's not that hard to have like a stomp out racism campaign, is it?
No, you wouldn't think so.
Is that the next step? And I mean, would that be a way?
I sincerely hope it is.
And I'm not talking about monetization.
No.
I'm just thinking in general, I'm promoting that from an MLS standpoint, not from a supporters group, from an MLS standpoint down. For promoting, starting there with racism. Let's not even, I don't think that's a political topic, but it ties in to this whole, Iron Front and the symbol and political.
For me, as a somewhat non-capitalist, you could get a sponsor, and I can name companies. Target presents Stomp Out Racism.
Yeah,
that's not the. You hear that from a corporate level, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, some of us work for large corporations. They have all those programs.
Yeah.
I would admit that the corporation I work for has a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, same with mine.
I mean, it's just weird. Do you think that MLS doesn't or is kind of on board with that average fan and doesn't think that racism is an issue?
So I'm going to speak on Don Garber a little bit because
Why not?
I'm going to try to be as nice as I can.
Again,
you and Don Garber nice as you can.
So Don Garber his pedigree. He's of the NFL. He was in the upper echelons of NFL.
Yep.
He comes over with the NFL mentality.
Right.
I'm personally not an NFL supporter. I haven't watched football since Colin Kaepernick. So he's trying to apply let's homogenize it. Let's make it as plain as we possibly can be. Mm-hmm. The difference is that the cultures behind NFL, the NFL supporter, and Major League Soccer or soccer supporters in general, are so different that you just can't apply the same rules to both groups. It just does not work.
Huge difference.
I don't think, from his point of view, he probably is thinking, as he's trying to grow MLS and the sport,
right?
He probably thinks he can't bring it to the more mainstream with that kind of grassroots supporters
Well, Dave,
mentality.
You and I know football.
But it is.
You and I know
we're talking about
American
soccer.
football.
Yeah.
Blue collar guys. Blue
Right.
collar.
Sure.
That's the deal.
If you're generalizing, yeah.
Sunday, drinking beer, watching your team on TV. That's what you do.
Right.
Soccer is totally different.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, you're talking about football that's been.
You're talking about.
It's 100 years old.
You are talking about people from all walks of life, and more than American football is.
Right.
American football is America. That's blue blood. I mean, that's that.
It's
right?
different.
Soccer, football, as they call it, it's worldwide. Liberals, there's anarchists, there's everything in soccer, right?
Absolutely.
All
right,
political
right,
groups.
left, and everywhere in between.
Exactly.
Soccer's the most important, most popular. It's the most
Exactly
popular
right.
sport in the world.
Well, and I think the interesting thing about soccer is how it's been in the United States has been very suburban, white collar soccer mom.
Yeah.
And the thing is there's always been that underbelly. If that sounds kind of derogatory, but there's that underbelly of the underworld type area.
As someone that played at a level, it was a pay to play.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the best way of putting it. It was a pay to play situation.
So,
And
I'll speak. When Don Garber came in, I think a dozen years ago. So what he did is when he brought in his people and they started marketing the NFL way, they actually went both ways. They marketed to the suburban families with the kids, but they needed something to draw in the television audience and draw in that. What can we do? Hey, we have these group of crazy people sitting over in the corner beating drums and waving flags. Let's market them too.
Right.
Without saying, hey, wait a minute. They're also standing up for people.
Right.
We'll ignore that part for now. We'll take their energy. We'll market it to the American public. We'll get in the suburban people. Let's go. And now it's to the point where it's okay. Now we don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of that.
Right.
It's the whole topic, guys. I'm going to say, and I think we should probably end it.
We probably should.
Because
we
we
could
go on
literally
for a
have an
while.
episode about this.
I think the whole topic is still kind of it's
very
changing.
fluid.
It's very fluid
Yeah.
right now. And I think that we'll have some more information as the days go on. But I think
Absolutely.
there's some steps being made towards a resolution. Hopefully that resolution is a good one. But you know what? We'll see what happens.
all I'm going to say is that the right people and the right representation are making the correct steps to make sure that not only is the safety of the supporters and the fans alike are at the utmost forefront.
Yeah.
And it's going in a direction that we hope, as I think as a whole, are going to be at the what we think is right.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, everybody's still safe, everybody's still respectful, and respectful in both senses, to the front office, to Minnesota United, and to the supporters.
Right.
You know, so that's just where I want to put my stance on.
And I'm going to add one little piece. So you're going to, since MLS and everybody has a bigger marketing budget than us supporters, what I would say is if you want to find out where the supporters are stand on all this, I would recommend everybody go to officialisc.com. The Independent Supporters Council platform on what we want to see is on that website. I encourage all of you to please go read that.
All right.
Right. Great talk, guys. Before we get out of here, let's get out of the whole political thing. Let's talk about some funny stuff.
Okay.
Unfortunately, not zombies.
One final thing.
What the heck?
Don't talk about my looks, please.
About what?
My funny looks. Oh, okay, never mind. Sorry.
No.
I went dark. I'm sorry.
Zach, I'll never do that.
As long as we're there, let's talk about that hair. No, I'm kidding.
No.
Wait, previous or post?
Yeah, right.
The curls.
How to lighten
News
the mood,
story.
sorry.
Guys, from September 11th. French company liable after employee dies during sex on a business trip.
What?
Okay.
Now listen to this.
Oh, shit.
A Paris court ruled that his death was an industrial accident. that the family was entitled to compensation. Now, the firm argued he was not carrying out professional duties when he joined a guest in her hotel room. But in French law, an employer is responsible for any accident occurring during a business trip. The man, named as Xavier X, was working as an engineer, Dave, for TSO, a railway services company based near Paris. He died at a hotel during a trip to central France in 2013 as a result of what an employer called an extramarital relationship with a perfect stranger. The company challenged, of course, provided defended its position by insisting that sexual activity was normal, like taking a shower or a meal.
Maybe they were having a business discussion.
In its ruling, the Paris Appeals Court upheld this view. So basically,
It's not exactly like eating a meal. But.
So this guy went on a business trip, right? And he found a woman.
And he did his business.
And he died during it. And now the business he worked for has to pay for the death, death stuff. Right?
Well,
basically, it's an accident.
Above and beyond, say, a natural life insurance policy?
Yeah, well, it's an accident. They're calling it an accident.
Yeah.
Was it a heart attack?
Well, who knows? We don't know the age of this guy or anything like that. But they're calling it an industrial accident.
Okay.
I think there'd be a little pushback on that because, I mean, come on.
I mean,
I go on European business trips all the time. I know
you do.
They work.
Do you work for that company?
Not that company.
He hasn't had an industrial accident yet. He's still here, isn't he?
That we know of.
I've read a little bit about Louisiana law, which is based on French law.
Yeah.
It is pretty backwards.
Well,
there's a reason why the United States uses common law, because it makes sense. But my God,
this guy after hours
this is insane.
Met a woman, did the hokey pokey, died during it, and they're saying the company is responsible because it was an industrial accident. He wasn't on the clock. He was not on the clock.
Now,
but if so I don't condone any of this crap.
Yeah.
But if he wasn't on said business trip, then maybe he wouldn't have met said woman and had the said account.
Okay.
I can distill this all down very simply.
Okay.
I've had the exact same argument with my boss. Well, actually, not the exact same.
Different area code, different rules.
Not exactly. Let me explain. It's not
Please explain.
not exactly the same. I was in, say, Amsterdam. Okay, of course. No, not doing what you're thinking. But I was in Amsterdam. I was driving from the job site to the airport, and I had managed to get 2 speeding tickets in the span of 10 minutes, and I didn't even know it because it was cameras in the middle of the day. So on the same stretch of freeway, like 5 miles apart, I got 2 speeding tickets, and they were mailed to me. And I went to my boss and I said, "Listen, I got 2 speeding tickets in 10 minutes. It was $160 or whatever euro that worked out to, but." I wouldn't have gotten these speeding tickets if I wasn't working, if I wasn't in the Netherlands working. And I said, "Listen, you need to pay for these because I wouldn't have gotten these otherwise." And they're like, "No." And they're like, "No. You're speeding. You weren't working."
Yeah.
I mean, I was working. It was my argument. I was in the Netherlands working. I was driving to the airport.
But you had to get to the airport. Wow. Right?
But they were... the company's official stance was, you were speeding, you were breaking the law, and therefore we can't pay.
I've never thought American law was more rational than I've ever read this.
You were speeding in the airport.
No, that was my argument. That's happened to me in like 4 or 5 different countries.
After all the political shit we've just talked here, now you have to rationalize it.
Oh my God! Suddenly, I really like this country's law system.
You had to get to the airport.
Damn,
right? That's why you're speeding.
Yes.
This guy did not have to stick his penis in somebody else's vagina as part of his job. So that wasn't part of his job.
Right.
Wait, are we sure about that?
Are we sure about that?
Well, he's an engineer, Dave.
I guess what I'm saying is like I am.
You're an engineer.
Yes, when
Probably slightly different engineer.
Depending on the stress level of the commissioning. Shit. Could consider that.
Wait, hold on. We now stop this podcast for any incriminating reasons that Dave might have.
No, just kidding. I'm joking, of course, but no, that was my point. What my point was, I mean, are you on the job or you're not on the job? So I'm saying that was what I was.
But no, I was saying is you had to get to the airport, right, to get wherever you're going. Right. This guy didn't have to do what he was doing in the bedroom late at night.
Wait. Does this fall back to an ambiguous reason?